So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down cards that I believe should be sold as soon as possible. So without further ado, we are going to hop right into the video. So firstly, as you guys know, I have talked about this for quite a long time, the off-season effect on certain sports. And if we look at the sports card market right now, we can see that football is by far the hottest sport. And we have multiple 10+% gainers in the last 30 days alone, including Brock Purdy, George Pickens, Derek Carr, and you get the point. There are a lot of cards that are going up in football. A majority are going up. There are, of course, some that have continued to kind of slide a little bit. But in general, football has been up this whole offseason. And we are seeing a lot of people getting a little bit greedy, holding cards into the season. And I'm here to make this video to show you guys why you should actually be selling football cards right now and getting into basketball, for example, which is a market that I think has great opportunity because as soon as the football season starts, people start heading towards basketball. I'm going to get into that towards the latter end of this video. But without further ado, we are going to hop right in to the reasons why I believe football is a great time to sell. So if we look at this one-year chart on a Patrick Mahomes Prism rookie card and a PSA 10 Prism Silver, which is also his base from that year, just to be clear. But as you guys can see right here, last offseason, this card ended around a $4,000 card. As soon as the season started, we saw prices dip all the way to $3,100. Keep in mind, he was still playing very well. Now, of course, throughout the season, Mahomes went on to win the Super Bowl. He had an incredible season. Couldn't have asked for anything better. And throughout the season, we saw his cards pretty much, go up and down, but they were pretty much around that $4,000 mark the whole season. From winning a Super Bowl, even after winning the Super Bowl in February, we did not really see a spike. It was still around a $4,000 card. Keep in mind, this guy just won a Super Bowl. If you bought it in the beginning of the season and your player goes on to win a Super Bowl MVP, you saw no price gain. And that is simply because of the amount of sellers and the amount of buyers there are in the market for football cards during this season. A lot of people get burned. Their players don't play as good. And just the overall market is pretty died out during the season. A lot of injuries, and not just that, the hype is not there. The hype is preseason hype, and then you see a dip as the season starts. So you guys saw it. Mahomes won a Super Bowl MVP, and you wouldn't have seen a price increase. Now, throughout the offseason, his cards have been slightly going up. If we look at like a 3-month chart this whole offseason, he's up around 6.5%, which is still not incredible, but at least he's up a little bit. And I think, heading into the season, he's going to do strong. His numbers are going to do strong, but going into the season is not the time to be holding the card. Now, if we look at Joe Burrow's Prism Silver, for example, preseason last year, this was a $2,400 card. Now, of course, during the season, it dipped all the way down to around $1,200. So you pretty much lost 50% from holding it literally for 2 months into the season. And the funniest thing is, we saw as soon as the offseason started, or, was close to starting for the Bengals around January time for the Bengals, we saw his prices start to bounce back up. And this whole offseason, they've been doing pretty good. Like if we look at a 3-month chart, the offseason has been a big gainer for Joe Burrow. His Prism Silver PSA 10 is up 22% over these last 3 months. But holding into the season is never a good idea. We saw a 50% decrease last season in literally a month, and I think we're going to see a similar decrease again. So you guys kind of get the point that holding into the season, even if your player has an incredible season, the economics just don't work out. It is not a good time to be holding cards into the season unless your player is going to have a massive breakout season like Jalen Hurts had last year. There are 1 or 2 main NFL players, NFL quarterbacks, whose prices go up a lot during the season, and then typically the rest of them who play, the same or up to expectations, or, even a little bit higher than expectations, you're not going to see much of a price increase. So unless your player surpasses expectations by a lot, you're not going to see a price increase. Now, if we look at basketball, on the other hand, there is a lot of runway for basketball over these next 2 to 3 months, to where I believe from now until probably the end of October, we're going to see a good 20 to 30% increase in the basketball card market. If we want to look at Giannis's market, for example, it has been going down quite a lot and is pretty much bottomed out. He's actually, I believe, on the alt trending up players right now for basketball. So I think there's a good amount of upside in a lot of basketball players right now. A lot of players who maybe get moved before the trade deadline or just before the season, who are very hot going into the season. So I'm personally focusing a lot of my attention on basketball, and I've just seen year and year again that, everyone at this time starts to really move their money away from football and more towards basketball, and basketball starts to see a good gain in prices. Giannis is one of those players I'm looking at after a down year, expecting his cards to kind of bounce back up a little bit. I think we are already starting to see a 16% growth in his Prism base, PSA 10 over these last just 1 month. So we already saw a 16% increase in price. He has personally been the player I've been targeting the most for the last couple months. And in 3 months, his cards are up 29%. So I've pretty much been flipping them. And if I'm holding on to them, I'm okay holding on to them. So that is just kind of what I'm doing, trying to get Giannis's at good prices. And I'll tell you guys, I've already made a lot of flips and a lot of money off of Giannis's market in the last month or so. And that's just one example. Another guy who I think has a good chance to really see a good price increase before the season starts is going to be Steph Curry. Steph Curry is another guy who I'm really looking at, and I know I'm telling you guys literally everything I'm doing, which dilutes me a little bit, but I'm always happy to give, the information out. But here we go. So if you look at Steph Curry over the last 3 months, he's up around 7%. Of course, this is his Topps Chrome, which may be a little bit tougher to track. Maybe we'll go to his Topps Regular, because that will probably give us a better idea of what his market has done overall, just because they sell a lot more often. So if we look at his base Topps in a PSA 10, or we're not going to get many sales with that, but we'll go with the PSA 9. So this card is up around 5% over this last month, and we saw after the season, after the season ended, we saw his prices take a good dip, and now they're at a point where I think they have a lot of runway. They're still around $1,300 in a PSA 9, for example, and if we look at the 1-year chart before last season, we saw that they were sitting quite high. So we were seeing they were around $1,800 to $2,000, and they're currently down to around $1,300. So I think we could see around that $2,000 action before the season starts. So this is just some quick examples of cards that I think have a lot of runway to go up. But definitely do your research. Don't buy a player because I told you guys to buy him. Do your research as well. But I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. And other than that, I'm out. Peace.